My mother is a Hamilton who was born and raised in New York State. And legend has it that if you go back far enough, we are related to Alexander Hamilton, who is the star of the Broadway musical, Treasury Secretary and Founding Father. You've probably heard the soundtrack. You may have even watched the movie on Disney Plus this weekend. And near the beginning of the musical, there's an exchange between Hamilton and Aaron Burr, in which Aaron Burr gives Hamilton some recommendations, you might say. And he tells Alexander, talk less, smile more. Don't let them know what you're against or what you're for. You want to get ahead? Fools that run their mouths off wind up dead. Now, Alexander Hamilton was no saint, and yet he understood something fundamental, that speaking out against injustice was worth the price you would pay for opening your mouth. There's this saying that suggests that there are two conversations in life that you ought to avoid: religion and politics. Well, it's kind of an important part of my job to be discussing religion. But the latter, actually, it's a pretty important part of my job to be discussing politics as well. To be clear, not partisanship, but politics. See, as we look at the Bible in general, or Jesus' words specifically, time and time again, we see them interacting with and confronting powers and systems. In other words, politics. Things like the kingdom of God, or the title Lord, or even the word gospel. These and many other themes are ideas that were borrowed, maybe even stolen from Caesar and the Roman Empire in order to critique and speak to Caesar and empire. If you think about it even, Jesus was killed on a cross, a death reserved for political criminals. Now, some of you might bristle at this idea, and yet talking less and smiling more is in itself a political course. Just ask Aaron Burr, who went on to become the Vice President of the United States. Martin Luther King Jr., who in the year 2020 we all celebrate, had very critical things to say in his day about Christians who decided they wanted to be apolitical and stand on the sidelines. And in his letter from the Birmingham jail, he said this: "In the midst of blatant injustices, I have watched white churchmen stand on the sideline and mouth pious irrelevancies and sanctimonious trivialities. In the midst of a mighty struggle to rid our nation of racial and economic injustice, I have heard many ministers say, those are social issues with which the gospel has no real concern. And I have watched many churches commit themselves to completely otherworldly religion, which makes a strange, unbiblical distinction between body and soul, between the sacred and the secular." I'm afraid that far too often MLK's words ring true, that we have sat on the sidelines and refused to bring this radical message of Jesus into the public squares in which we find ourselves. And as it turns out, I did some ancestry research this week, and I am not related to Alexander Hamilton. But I am related to a David Hamilton who fought in the Revolutionary War. So apparently some of that blood that fights against tyranny still runs through my veins. And in the same vein, it is not too late for us to turn. It is not too late for us to reform our souls and our systems and speak out against injustices and bring that radical message of Jesus into the public squares in which we find ourselves. So may our hearts be softened by and to the gospel of Jesus, that good news which is for the poor, the oppressed, the foreigner. May we truly love our neighbors of every age, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, physical and mental capacity, education, economic and marital status. And may we find our voices to speak truth to powers that would prefer that we talk less and smile more.
In Louisville, at the corner of 4th and Walnut, at the center of the shopping district, I was suddenly overwhelmed with the realization that I loved all these people, that they were mine and I theirs, that we could not be alien to one another, even though we were total strangers. It was like waking from a dream of separateness, of spurious self-isolation in a special world. This sense of liberation from an illusory difference was such a relief and such a joy to me that I almost laughed out loud. I have the immense joy of being man, a member of a race in which God Himself became incarnate, as if the sorrows and stupidities of the human condition could overwhelm me now that I realize what we all are. And if only everybody could realize this, but it cannot be explained. There is no way of telling people that they are all walking around shining like the sun. Then it was as if I suddenly saw the secret beauty of their hearts, the depths of their hearts, where neither sin nor desire nor self-knowledge can reach the core of the reality, the person that each one is in God's eyes. If only they could all see themselves as they really are. If only we could see each other that way all the time. There would be no more war, no more hatred, no more cruelty, no more greed. But this cannot be seen, only believed and understood by a peculiar gift.
became my resurrection, oh, the light that came shining in. Now I've got beauty for ashes, and I've got joy for mourning, and I've got praise for heaviness. Love is a miracle. I've got beauty for ashes, and I've got joy for mourning, and I've got praise for heaviness. Love is a miracle. This is more than religion. Glad I made my decision. Hope reversed the curse I was walking in. Now I'm dancing out my grave clothes. You keep leading, now I follow. You gave a light that the darkness can't comprehend. Now I've got beauty for ashes, and I've got joy for mourning, and I've got praise for heaviness. Love is a miracle. I've got beauty for ashes, I've got joy for mourning, and I've got praise for heaviness. Love is a I remember the voice that called me. I remember when my heart said yes. I will never forget that morning you were singing over me. I remember the voice that called me. I remember when my heart said yes. I will never forget that morning you were singing over me. Yeah, you were singing over me. I've got freedom and I'm dancing. Love is